And like I mentioned before, this is exactly what members who are leveraging this in the $50,000 mastermind are using to get to 15 to $50 million raised. And so if you're trying to improve your own sales ability, you're on an offer and you feel like, hey, I'm not closing the amount of people I should, or I need to get a second offer, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. This gives you the map, the blueprint, the clarity that you need to actually make these decisions so you can make this happen for yourself. Hey you, how you doing? My name is Tommy, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the exact same principles that I'm using to take me from 11K, which I made this last month, to actually being able to get up to 30K per month. Now, if you don't know who I am, obviously my name is Tommy. I happen to currently work for a high level company that helps people raise capital, which, in case you're not curious about it, basically we help people get, $6.5 million in the first 6 to 12 months of working with us. And once they get to this next level, which we're going to be talking about in just a second, it lets them get to 15 to 50 million being able to be raised. And so the principles that we're going to be covering is literally the exact same stuff that members within the community that actually purchase access to this mastermind get. And so what this is going to allow you to do is that if you're someone who is wanting to do what I'm doing, go from 10 to 30K, or you're someone who's really wanting to perform better on the offer. Let's say you're not performing as much as you want to, be it close rate, cash collected, whatever. This is going to allow you to improve that. Or if you're someone who's not even on an offer and wants to smash an interview out of the park and actually be able to get an offer and start making the type of money you're wanting to make, this is also for you, because the principles here are what allow the highest level people to perform at that level. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so this is literally how I'm using the $50,000 mastermind principles to improve my own sales ability. So in case, like I mentioned, my name is Tommy. I just cleared 11K in comms this last month, and I'm trying to get to the 30K month mark. So the principle that we're going to be covering is what gets measured gets managed. Now, it's very simple to understand, but the problem that a lot of people have is it's simple, so therefore they think they understand it, and therefore it automatically applies and it doesn't take a lot of effort. When the reality is, just because you have something and you understand a principle does not mean you're doing it. The challenge is in swallowing your ego enough to actually do the daily steps necessary when other people are like, oh, yeah, I understand that. But the reality is those people aren't actually doing anything with it. And so they're not getting the benefits. So when you measure something, you typically get around a 20% increase in whatever it is you're doing, be it time, energy, closing rate, calories, whatever. And so the pros always do the basics. The pros never don't do the basics. The foundational things and doing them well every single time are what allow them to be advanced. The problem that a lot of beginners or unsuccessful people have, and I have been one of these people, so I'm not throwing stones, is that you do barely enough skill and ability to be able to start doing some more advanced stuff. And then you switch all your time, effort, and energy to doing those things. It's like shiny object syndrome. And then you stop doing the things that allowed you to actually get to that point in the first place. And so the analogy that I'm going to use is it's like you stopped practicing how to walk as soon as you learned that you could actually drive. And so you start spending all your time, effort, and energy trying to drive and not practicing how to walk. And the result of that to you is that, basically, how are you going to walk out to a car to be able to drive if you stop practicing how to walk? You literally can't. You'll just be in your bed like a fish flopping around. And so that's really the idea, the mentality of this. Now, how do you actually do the step by step? How do you actually implement the same processes that has gotten people to raise $50 million or more? Well, that's what I'm going to walk you through in just a second. And so right here we have, here, I'll pull it up properly. Got the right thing for you. So this right here is Toggle. What you and I are currently going to be doing, if you're wanting to implement this, is do a time study. Now, what people have done in the past is they have a 15-minute timer that beeps at them, and they have to write down exactly what it is they were doing at that moment in time. I hate that. I hate the idea of it. It's super annoying. And I hate being distracted, especially if you're trying to do deep work. So what we do, or what we're going to do, is use Toggle, which is absolutely free. And I'm going to show you how I'm using it to actually improve my own abilities. So it's very easy to set up, sign up for it. It's free, all that other fun stuff. You can get the desktop app, so it's even more convenient for you. You can get on your phone as well. Have this as many places as possible so that way you can keep track of everything you're doing. And then once you start doing this, you just literally click start, document the different tasks that you're doing. And then as soon as you switch tasks, switch the thing you're doing. And then keep track of it as you're going. So, for example, in this specific one, it was studying a specific module I was doing. Here, I was on a sales call. Here, I was on a team meeting. And that's the thing, as you go through it, actually document what you're doing. And the two things you have to keep in mind when doing this is one, be honest with yourself. If you're watching a YouTube video and you know you're watching a YouTube video you shouldn't be watching, document it anyway. Yeah, you'll feel guilty, but be honest with yourself because the only one that suffers is you if you don't keep track of this and be honest. The second thing is just keep track of what you're doing at that moment in time. And as soon as you switch, then you can switch it. Once you do that, you can have this running tally of how you're spending your time and it's accurate. And then if you set an intention for yourself in a calendar, like I'm going to time block this thing, and then you don't do it, you can compare and see, okay, this is what I said I was going to do. This is what I actually did. Why? And then allows you to problem solve what you did versus what you meant to do, and then solve that. So in this case, just using me as an example, I spent a good chunk of time in bed. And the reason why I said in bed versus asleep is I use an Aura ring to actually track my sleep, and I can compare this to the actual time I spent laying in bed. Why is it I spent, close to 11 hours in bed when good night's sleep should typically be 8 to 9? Well, if I'm being honest, before I go to bed, I like listening to an audible, book. That's how I usually wind down, relax, that type of stuff. The problem, though, that I noticed is that the stuff I'm listening to can sometimes be super interesting, so that I actually stay up for a couple hours past when I'm supposed to be asleep, which then means if I'm going to get 8 hours sleep, it pushes back my entire day to much later. Well, how am I going to solve that? Well, delete Audible, stop listening to those things. And so, but the thing is, I realized that because I was tracking it. And so that's what you're able to do. You're able to see where am I spending my time? How am I allocating it? What's pushing me closer to my goals? What's pushing me further away from my goals? And then you can audit stuff and change things out and adjust things as needed. Now, I'm not saying don't have any fun because you should be able to enjoy yourself. You should be able to relax. But the thing is, if you're trying to perform at a high level, even relaxation is work, meaning you're relaxing so that you can perform better when you are working. So even relaxation is work. And so I use this report thing right here. And the way I have this specifically broken down is like, okay, here is where I'm spending my time. I have 4 buckets because I'm trying to get better at sales: non-sales activity, non-sales study, on calls, meaning on sales calls, and then sales study / practice. And there's breakdowns for all of them. There's the amount of entries. And then I also have one called, without project, which means that if I put this on, it's going to pull up the amount of time I spend doing this, which I'm not entirely sure why, because I'm trying to show all of this. Here we go. So I'm showing all of this right now, meaning the total amount of time spent in each spot. If I go by duration, most of the time I've spent was not doing any one of these 4 activities. So then I can click into here and be like, okay, well, what did I spend my time on? Okay, the most amount of time I spent was in bed. So if we go back to what I mentioned earlier about the Audible thing, so that meant that in each of these cases, I spent a couple hours every single night listening to stuff. Well, is that serving me? No. Okay, well, how can I adjust things so that way I can spend more time doing the things that actually will get me to where I want to go? And then there's other things I have in here that are kind of unrelated to that. But that's the thing. You have this capacity of understanding where you're spending your time, because then you can look at this and say, okay, most of my time, if I look on a project-based thing, was spent doing sleep type related stuff, unrelated to what I'm trying to do. And then non-sales activity, what's that about? And then you can look at duration. Let's see what loads. Okay, so eating and YouTube. Okay, so why is that the case? Talking with people, getting gear, mandatory meeting that I had to do, a team meeting, different like studying, and like it allows you to literally track everything, and you can measure where you're spending time and if that's actually helping you get to where you want to go. And then within each of the different components, you can see, where am I spending time? Is this getting me closer? Is this getting me further? And the beauty of this, again, right now I'm doing this content creation piece, but it took me about 45 minutes to actually go through, understand these different buckets, and actually compile where I'm spending time and make adjustments. And so what that means is this next week, I can pick 1 or 2 things to actually improve on and save the most amount of time, and then reallocate it in a better manner. So it's going to be a little bit annoying for about half hour, maybe 45 minutes on a Saturday when you do this after you've spent the week tracking as you've been going along. But then once you do, you have a very clear understanding of where you spend your time. and where you're spending your effort. And then you can start to go back through and reallocate. And if there's a problem you're facing, like for example, why is it I'm spending time on YouTube versus doing work? It allows me to be like, well, it's because I feel like X. Oh, well, why do I feel like X? So then you can go into more of a mindset stuff and reframing and changing those mental components. Because not everything is just like numbers. There's also the emotional component around stuff as well, which is one of the things I'm personally working with Nikki on, is some of those emotional things and reframing it mentally, internally, of how I can make things better and easier for myself from a mindset perspective. And so that's the thing, is you can play with these different components. But again, it all comes down to if you're being honest with yourself about what you're doing, consistently doing this. And as a result of that, it gives you the understanding of where you are spending your time. And if you truly, in your heart of hearts, are wanting to hit whatever your North Star happens to be, you know the actions you need to take. And if you're not taking those actions, why? Is it oh, I feel X? Well, then that means you have to start reframing those emotions, reframing those bad mindsets that are actually preventing you from doing the things you're wanting to do. And then if you need to know how to do that, obviously there's things you can follow to obviously make that happen, which is what I'm working with Nikki on, like I mentioned. But this gives you the capacity to make this work. And like I mentioned before, this is exactly what members who are leveraging this in the $50,000 mastermind are using to get to $15 to $50 million raised. And so if you're trying to improve your own sales ability, you're on an offer and you feel like, hey, I'm not closing the amount of people I should, or I need to get a second offer, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. This gives you the map, the blueprint, the clarity that you need to actually make these decisions so you can make this happen for yourself. As opposed to what I have unfortunately done in the past is follow my feelings, be like, hey, I'm not making the money I want to make, but I really like this company. So then because I feel like I like the company, I'm actually sacrificing my ability to make income, which is going to hamper my long-term goals. If you're someone who's trying to get on an offer, hey, I want to improve, but I suck. Sometimes you can be in that boat. I was in that boat for a while. Well, then how can you not suck? What steps do you need to take to actually make this happen for yourself? And then if you're not doing the studying, why are you not doing the studying? Is it a mental thing? Is it because you're not clear on the specific goal you're trying to hit? This gives you the ammunition you need to get clear and then take action. And if you're not taking action, troubleshoot why you're not taking action. And so then it ultimately puts you in the best position to win. So hopefully you found this valuable. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn more about, I'm very big on trying to create things to help other people, as well as I'm also trying to grow my own personal brand. So that's the selfish reason for me. If you have anything, you can reach out to me. My handle, Tommy Talent, is my website. It's my Instagram. It's my Facebook. It's everything. And so if you want to reach out to me, go ahead. I'm more than happy to talk with you if I can assist in any way, shape, or form. If not, I'll make sure to let you know. And until next time, thank you very much for your time. If it's on YouTube, like, subscribe, etc. Talk to you later.